Hey everybody, welcome to the last monthly opinions on the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book and franchise for this year. That's right, it's the last one of 2013. And I know you're thinking, well, wait a minute, you just restarted these, right? Yeah, I did. And I could tell you this honestly, folks. It's been one heck of a run. I will say that. Excuse me. It's been one heck of a run, I will say that. I mean, when you take a look at what's gone on these past few years, the past year or so, it's been a heck of a run. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the comic. As pretty much a lot of you know, these past 2 weeks, we have all seen the release of issue 255 to our mailboxes if you're a subscriber, or have seemingly arrived at our comic book stores or whatever bookshops that sell the comic books. Excuse me. So we've seen it, we've read it, some of us have reviewed it, and pretty much one thing that's come out of this whole entire situation, if you will, one thing that's come out of this entire situation is the fact that Bunny Rabbit's backstory on how she got her cybernetics has changed. And it's a change that's that's gotten basically a three-way reaction. Of course, on one hand, you got a negative reaction from fans that feel that it's unnecessary. It didn't need to be done this way. In the middle, you have people like myself that's kind of mixed. Like, we kind of agree that it shouldn't have been done, but we understand why it's being done. And then you have of course you have the other side, which is the positive side. And they're pretty much like, hey, she's still cybernetic. She's still robotic. Doesn't matter how it happened. She's still Bunny Rabbit. So, yeah. You have a lot of fans. So basically you got a three-way reaction with that. And again, it's a decision. It's one of those controversial decisions that was made. To tie in with this new retcon, if you will, this new soft retcon of the realities being, altered, being kind of different, the new timelines being different. And then, that's another thing, folks. A lot of people, don't like the fact that things have to be retconned, changed up and everything to match up with the games. Well, there's a lot of people that don't like it either. You take a look at the comics and you're thinking it's supposed to have its own identity. Yes, that's true. It's supposed to have its own identity. But when you're trying to boost the sales of your games, and with the success that you've had when it comes to games like Sonic Colors, Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Generations, and the mediocre success, I guess you could say, in the eyes of some, of Sonic Lost World, if you're the owners of this franchise, you want to do whatever it takes. You want to do whatever it takes to make it, to get people to buy your product. Even if it's to suggest, and I'm not saying they ordered, but suggest that the game get more closer to the game, that the comics become more closely tied in with the games than usual. And whether that's a popular decision or not, if if you want people to if you want people to buy the products of your franchise, then you got to do whatever it takes. So apparently, again, we the people like the decisions that are being made in the comics right now to change backstories, to alter timelines and how things are or were. Then then so be it. So be it right now. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. There's been a lot of franchises. There's been a lot of retcons. There's been a lot of reboots in comic books, and not just in comic books, but in other kinds of media throughout the decades, throughout generations. And sometimes the reboots and the retcons are met with positive reaction, sometimes met with a mixed reaction, some met with a negative reaction, and just like what's going on with Sonic right now, kind of met with a three-way reaction. So again, retcons and reboots do happen, whether they're soft, hard, or not. They always will happen. Now, the question a lot of people have, though, like Lewis the Hedgehog has, is will this altered reality be temporary or permanent? Well, I think when you read what Eggman had to say in 255 to Qbot and Orbot, Eggman basically said that it wouldn't be long before this new timeline, this new history of his takes permanent hold. So basically, you could pretty much indicate right there that this is going to be like a new direction they're going to go in. That this is going to be the new Mobius Prime. Whether we like it or not, that this is going to be it. Now, what happens afterwards with Countdown to Chaos, that is something that a lot of people are wondering about too. Now, like I said, it looks like this altered reality is going to be the new reality. It's going to be the new timeline. It's going to be the new Mobius Prime, whether we like it or not. But what happens afterwards with Countdown to Chaos is what a lot of people want to talk about. Well, not a lot of people want to talk about, but they're curious about. What they're curious about is how this is what's really going on. They're curious about certain things happening in the comic afterwards. Well, I could say this. Whether we find out next month in the final issue of Countdown to Chaos, or we find out afterwards, it seems that despite what Ian Flynn may be trying to say to throw us off, it seems, ladies and gentlemen, that a Sonic Unleashed adaptation, or basically some kind of adaptation or tie-in to Sonic Unleashed, is going to happen. Because when you read the first page of this month's issue, 255, they talk about, at the end, Ian writes in something of a monstrous, something monstrous underneath. So, if that doesn't tell you whether or not we're probably getting some kind of loose adaptation or full-on adaptation or tie-in or some kind of story that ties into Sonic Unleashed, I do not know what does. So it seems to answer other questions people have of whether or not Dark Gaia is going to show up. I can pretty much assume that Dark Gaia is going to show up in some shape or form. Now, that pretty much confirms, like I said, that we're going to either get a loose adaptation or full-on adaptation or some kind of tie-in adaptation to Sonic Unleashed. And you know what? Let me put it to you like this. If that happens, we know Sonic goes werehog, right? We know that. Don't be surprised if Ian decides, if he does go in this direction, that not only does Sonic go werehog, do not be surprised if all the Freedom Fighters kind of go into the were situation as well. And just like Sonic, have it be temporary. Don't be surprised about that. If Ian decides to do this full-on adaptation, or loose adaptation, or tie-in adaptation, or whatever. Don't be surprised if whether we get a full-on, loosely, or tie-in adaptation of Sonic Unleashed that's not just Sonic, but all the Freedom Fighters start going a little feral, if you know what I mean. Now, another thing that's happening in the comics in the next month or so is we're getting a new Shadow arc. And through this Shadow arc, we're getting introduced to some new villain characters, new alien villain characters. Characters by the name of Black Death, Espilo, kind of like Calypso or Espilo or something like that. We're getting that character. We're getting it's basically supposed to be like an invasion storyline. It's supposed to tie in somewhat to the Shadow the Hedgehog game, because a lot of fans have dubbed it Shadow the Hedgehog 2.5 or 1.5. If you get my drift. Yeah, a lot of fans have dubbed it Shadow the Hedgehog 1.5. You know, kind of a play on something that the comic did before. Okay, you're probably asking, well, what do you mean? Well, back around 124 and 125, when a certain individual was the head writer, they created a story in which they dubbed Sonic Adventure 2.5. So, yeah. It's not uncommon for people to kind of want to say or tie into something, you know, or say or even tie in or loosely continue a storyline or make a sequel to it, even if it's in the comics. Which is why a lot of fans, when they look at this new Shadow the Hedgehog storyline, this new Shadow the Hedgehog Sonic Universe comic book miniseries coming, that they dubbed it Shadow the Hedgehog 1.5 because of its tie-ins somewhat to the Shadow the Hedgehog video game. So there you go. Now, that's what's coming up next month, or at the end, in the middle of this month, basically in the middle to the end of this month. That's what's coming up next, as far as Sonic Universe goes. Another thing that's happening in the comics and this is something that, in my opinion, you know, people can debate about and kind of say, oh, maybe this makes her half robotic. Maybe she is cyborg. There's been discussion, according to what people have heard from Ian Flynn, Paul Kaminsky, and such, that when Sally does show up, Sally has something in her gloves, something that's going to help her in battle. Now, some people would speculate, oh, this means she's half robotic. No, I wouldn't say that, because pretty much you have Qbot basically comment in 255 that she ain't a robot no more. So that should kind of indicate that she's not robot yet. She's not all robot. Now, Ian Flynn has said that we might see Mecha Sally again. But when we will see her is either next month in one of the memory restoring flashbacks, or maybe we'll see something. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe she'll have the ability to turn herself into a mecha warrior or something like that and fight off the egg army. Who knows? I know that kind of sounds like it's stretching it, but still. You kind of get the idea. And it wouldn't be uncommon, because we've seen that happen in comic books too. So it wouldn't be totally uncommon. But the thing is, folks, they say she has something in her gloves that's going to help her. Now, what could she have in her gloves? Some people would speculate that maybe it's the blades, just like you saw in her mecha suit. Maybe that's going to be her new combating thing. Some have speculated it could be some kind of hacking tool to where she could just activate what's in her gloves and she can hack into any defense system or something like that and get the information that way. Who knows? Who knows? It's something. We all know that. I mean, come on. They wouldn't do a Valiant cover for 258 and say the return of Princess Sally, would they? If something wasn't really going on. And the thing is, whether you want to take Ian Flynn for his word or not, he's basically said Sally's still going to be Sally. No matter what. She's still going to be Sally. So, depending on what we have occur and find out next month, depending on what we find out next month and depending on what we find out in the months to come, it's going to be quite interesting. But I don't think she's a robot. I think maybe she might have some kind of like something that's going to help her combat Robotnik's armies. I mean, Eggman's armies, if you will. That's what I think. And it might even have a hacking tool. Who knows? But I believe it's basically like something that's going to be similar to maybe they're going to be like energy gloves. Maybe they're just going to, turn into energy gloves. Basically, they'll glow and she'll be able to fight like that. Be able to knock people down with ease or something. Who knows? Who knows? But my point is, folks, all we could do right now as far as Sally's situation goes is speculate. And speaking of Sally, apparently at the end of the story, we find out there's a little twist, if you will, that's been given. A twist that, in my opinion, is all right. It's, it does kind of make you guess whether who's going to get their memories back or not. Because apparently, last month in 254, Nicole kind of indicated that she could probably do two or three more people. Now she's indicating that she probably only has enough energies left from the Genesis wave to do one person. And that's either going to be Sally or Amy. And in my opinion, it's kind of tossed up. I mean, it's kind of tossed in the air. I mean, I think Amy, this is what I'm thinking in my opinion. I think it's going to go either a few ways. Amy's going to either be like Sonic, to where she'll pretty much remember a lot, but just like with Sonic, the new memories of the new reality are going to start settling in on her. In other words, she'll be like Sonic. It's like she'll remember the old world, remember certain events, but slowly some of those events will get altered and become part of her new memories from the new world. That's what I think could happen. That's one scenario. Thus, opening the door for Sally to be restored. Basically opening the door to have Sally's memories restored. Now, another way they could go with this, ladies and gentlemen, if you will, is if Amy ends up showing up and she becomes like Tails, like it would, and she ends up being like everybody else, like Tails and Bunny and Antoine, like it's basically to where all of a sudden she would need Nicole to restore her memories. That could be one way. And then you could say, well, what does that do for Sally? Well, fans have speculated that if they go in the direction and choose Amy Rose to be the one that gets the memories restored, that the reason they wouldn't do it for Sally, and this is according to a lot of fan speculation, in my opinion, it sounds like a good speculation. My opinion, it sounds like a good speculation. That the reason they wouldn't do it for Sally, if they go in this second, if they choose to, if they go with choice, if they go with this second choice, if Ian Flynn decides to go with the second choice, the reason they wouldn't restore Sally but would restore Amy, as fans have speculated, in my opinion, and it's a good speculation, is because story-wise, Sonic and his friends wouldn't want Sally to remember her being, basically story-wise, according to a lot of fans, Sonic would not want Sally to remember being roboticized. They would not want her to remember being Mecha Sally and doing the things she did. Because like they showcased in 252. Well, not 252, but 253, what is it? 254, that's what it is. It's like they showcased in 254. They could have restored Uncle Chuck's memories, but Sonic and Tails kind of declined on that because they wouldn't want him to remember he was roboticized. So that's another choice that they could go in between Sally and Amy. And a lot of fans have speculated that that might be the direction they go in, because storyline-wise, just like with Uncle Chuck, they would not want Sally remembering being roboticized or being Mecha Sally, being robotic. Basically, they would not want Sally to be. Hold on for a second. I need a cup of coffee up. I'm going cuckoo here. There we go. Need a little bit of a drink there. But anyway, like I'm saying, second choice wise, they wouldn't want, if Ian goes in the goes with the second choice storyline wise, it's because Sonic and company would not want Sally remembering that she was roboticized and weaponized and was Mecha Sally and did all this. They wouldn't want her to remember that, so thus they could just start with a clean slate. And again, that's what fans are speculating, and it's a good, in my opinion, it's a good speculation, because when you think about it, when you're thinking about it, Sally, I mean, come on, think about it. If you think about it just from a character standpoint, if you're in the position, if you're in Sally's position, and all of a sudden you have your memories restored, and you start looking and seeing the things you did as Mecha Sally, is that not going to make you be like, oh my God, kind of like sadden a little bit, kind of trouble you at times? Of course it will. So again, this is the second choice, and I know I'm repeating myself, and I apologize if I sound like a broken record. But apparently, this would be the reason why they would go with this second choice, so that she could just start with a clean slate and not have to remember any of that. And neither would they. But then again, there's a third choice. And it's the third choice that I've kind of thought about a little bit, and in my opinion could be the twist, could be the wild card in all of this, could be the big wild card in all of this. You see, the third choice could be the fact that because she had a power ring, a modified power ring, if you will, because she had some kind of a power ring, modified or not, installed in the back of her as Mecha Sally, and because even after she was shut down by Silver, that I feel, since she, along with Sonic and all of them, were near the Genesis wave when it happened the second time, my speculation, in my opinion, is this: Sally will remember. Yeah. Okay, you're probably thinking, what do you mean? Probably asking, what do you mean she'll remember? Go back to Sonic Genesis. Go back to the final issue or so, and read throughout Sonic Genesis, throughout the graphic novel or the individual issues. The graphic novel or the individual issues. Read through Sonic Genesis, and then read the final issue of Sonic Genesis, or the final story in the graphic novel, and you'll see that Sally, like Sonic, starts remembering in the other world. So, my speculation is Sally, being in the position that she was in, with the power ring inside of her as Mecha Sally, and being right there with them when the Genesis wave happened, I believe Sally, because of her very close ties and very close friendship with Sonic, just like in Sonic Genesis, is going to remember. She is. I don't think she's going to need to be restored. This would be the third choice, the wild card direction that I think Ian could go in. The wild card direction that he could go in. And what I mean is, because she was such a central part of the previous arc, and because of she being in the role that she was in and having the power ring inside of her and all that, I think, I honestly, in my opinion, this is my honest opinion, folks, I don't think if Ian Flynn goes with this third choice, this wild card choice, if you will, I truly believe, in my opinion, if they go with this wild card direction, that Sally's going to remember, and she's not going to have her memory restored. She won't. And that's going to leave the door open for Amy. So you see, there's three choices, three ways they could go with, the third one being like a wild card. They could either go with Amy being like Sonic, kind of remembering things of the old world, but like Sonic, the new memories, the altered memories start to take over and everything, just like with Sonic, and thus opens the door for Sally. Two, they could go with Amy having her memories restored and not restore Sally's memories so that she doesn't remember being Mecha Sally and doing the things she did. Or three, and again, this is the wild card, they could go with Sally already remembering everything and Amy being the one that needs to have her memories restored. Again, these are just three directions I believe Ian Flynn can go in when it comes to deciding, storyline-wise, who gets the memories restored, and thus at the same time, fully helps restore Nicole to full capacity. If you know what I mean. So those are three choices in my opinion. And I know a lot of people listening to this are going to be like, well, that sounds good and everything, Brian, but I don't think that might be the direction. I don't think any of those would be the direction. And that's your opinion. You're free to say that. Because that's your opinion. You're free to say that. But in my honest to God opinion, I believe those will be one of those three directions will be the direction they will go in. So that's just me. Now, speaking of Amy Rose, this is something I read off one of the forums. I think it's one of the forums, or if it's off DeviantArt or something like that. But apparently there's a rumor. If you're an Amy Rose fan, this is something that you may have heard of or may not heard of. But there's a rumor going about that Sega is thinking of getting rid of Amy Rose. Yeah. That Sega is thinking of getting rid of Amy Rose or removing her. Now you might say, well, why would they want to remove her? She's popular. People like her. Well, apparently she's not going to be removed from the comics, or is she? We don't know. But apparently there's a rumor that she's going to be removed from something. We don't know if it's the games, we don't know if it's the comics, or what. Because here's the thing. She's slated to premiere. Not premiere. Amy Rose is slated to appear, I should say, is slated to appear in the new Sonic Boom cartoon next year. She's slated to appear in there. And fans are always looking forward to seeing her in those crossover games of the Mario and Sonic Olympics. So, speculation abound. It seems Amy's being removed from something that's in connection with the franchise, but we don't know what. Either it's the games or the comics or whatever, she's being removed from something. Now, of course, there have been some fans that are not happy with this decision, some fans that have started a petition to basically make sure it doesn't happen. Now, again, this is just speculation, this is just a rumor, and we don't know if it's true or not. That's just what I'm hearing. So, honestly, in my opinion, I don't think they should get rid of Amy Rose. I don't think they should get rid of her. And then, here's some of the reasons. Because they say rumors speculate that it's inappropriate, it's this, it's that. There's speculation that's the reason she's being could be removed is because of, I guess, her crush is kind of inappropriate. Her crush on Sonic's inappropriate. The jealousy factor, things like that. These are things that fans are speculating could be the reason. But again, those are, things that fans are speculating or heard or read could be the reasons of her removal. But I don't think so. I don't think she's going to get removed. I think right now it's just rumor. We need to take it with a grain of salt. But if it's true, the only question is exactly what part of the franchise she'll be removed from. Because nobody really knows. But right now, that's what's going on. Apparently, rumor and speculation abound is Amy Rose is going to be removed by Sega, but we don't know from what just yet, from what portion of the franchise. Now, speaking of the comics, just one more time. Apparently, the previous Sonic Universe arc, which was Pirate Plunder Panic, has finished up. And there have been some fans, like the Media Man, Mixed Fan 8645, I believe, or 8649. Mixed Fan 8649 or something like that, or 45. I can't really remember right now. The Media Man over at DeviantArt and several others that feel that Pirate Plunder Panic was not the best story centered around Blaze the cat that Archie could have come up with. Now, Mixed Fan basically blames the writing on it. And the head writer for this was Tracy Yardlin. So I guess Mixed Fan's putting the blame on that person. But apparently it's not just Tracy Yardlin's writing either. Basically, Mixed Fan, the Media Man, if you will, feels that every time Blaze is written in the comics, that she's written not just as a kick-ass character, which she is shown at times, believe me, I know, but she's also shown to be easily knocked down, easily knocked out, easy to sneak up on, easy to basically beat up when she doesn't see it coming. And it seems that the Media Man, Mixed Fan, if you will, and several other people are sick to death of that. They're like, this is not Blaze the Cat. Blaze the Cat is a princess and a guardian of the Soul Emeralds, and she's an ass kicker. She's a badass. She should not be easily defeated. And that's true. You know, basically they feel she shouldn't be seen as incompetent. They shouldn't make her look like she's an incompetent individual. And and Mixed Fan basically points out a few things as to why Archie Comics has made her look incompetent. One is Worlds Collide on how she was captured easily to be roboticized. And roboticized into a roboticized master. Two, of how easily she was captured in Pirate Plunder Panic, and then previously before that in several side stories in the main comic, and even in Treasure Team Tango, the other universe comic she was in. As well as, well, I guess you wouldn't say the first universe comic, but you get the idea. You get a universe issue, but you get the idea. You know, basically this fan feels as though if Archie Comics is going to write Blaze into the story, whether it's in the main comic, whether it's in universe or not, what they need to do is write her as the Blaze Cat, as the Blaze the Cat character that we see in the games, that we've seen in the games, we've seen playing in the games. Because believe me, I will say this. When I play the Sonic Generations, and I do a challenge level, where basically Blaze kind of helps me along the way in I think the City Ruins section, or whatever it is. And she kind of helps me along the way by basically using her powers to blast all these fire demons and whatever away. To me, that's Blaze. And when I play as her in the Sonic Rush and Sonic Rush Adventure games, that's Blaze. And I can understand why fans feel that that's the Blaze that Sonic should be writing Blaze as in the comic book. So yeah, Pirate Plunder Panic. I guess if you read the Media Man's review on it at DeviantArt, Mixed Fan 8645 or whatever, 49. 8649 or 8645. It's Mixed Fan 8649 or Mixed Fan 8645. But if you read his review at DeviantArt, you can kind of see that his avatar kind of has this meh, kind of like meh kind of thing, because that's basically, to him, that's kind of like what the story was. So, yeah, that's basically what the story was. So, overall, though, it's been a really interesting year, I will say that. And I might do a end of the year video or audio video, if you will, sometime down the line, maybe even sooner than you think. But yeah, I'll probably do an end of the year video whenever I can. But the point is, ladies and gentlemen, the point is, you know, it's been an interesting year. But anyway, before I close, I will say this. Before I close, apparently, I will say this. As far as the video games go, it seems that Sonic Lost World, like I mentioned earlier, is kind of getting mixed reactions. Some people like it, some people don't. You know, some feel it's just a Sega version of Super Mario Galaxy and stuff. So, you know, we'll see what happens as time goes on and see how much more popular it may get or unpopular it may get. So, but to me, it looks like a fun game to play. If I ever get a chance to buy the Wii U, I will buy that game. It'll be one of the first ones I buy. But anyway, like I said, that's basically the situation with Sonic Lost World. And as far as Sonic Jump goes, which is an iPod game or not well, it is an iPod game, but it's also a iPhone, Android tablet game, or Kindle Fire game, or iPad game. It recently got an adaptation in the Sonic Super Digest. Now, the recent Super Sonic Digest does have a few other stories in there. It has stories from earlier issues, very earlier issues. Has some stories from recent issues, I will say that. So, very recent issues. So those that's basically what's in there. But yeah, the first story is based around Sonic Jump. And it looks okay. And then, of course, there's a rumor, if you will. There is a rumor going around, ladies and gentlemen, that another supposedly Sonic game is being talked about and developed. Now, some people read this off TSSZ and some other sites as well, and they kind of taken it with a grain of salt the way it's being described. Because some people look at it and they say, nah, it sounds more like a fan fiction kind of deal. It's like there's no truth to it whatsoever. There is no truth. But until we get confirmation, in which we probably already have or not, from Sega themselves, we can only speculate on this one, right? Apparently, there's a new game in development. It's called Sonic Thunderstorm or something, I think. It's called Sonic Thunderstorm. Something like that. And it's supposed to basically have the main game cast, the main video game cast, interact with teenage alternate versions of themselves. Now, you might say, they're teenagers already. Yeah, well, apparently they're supposed to meet up with some other characters that are like, that have powers and stuff, and basically are like real teen alternate versions, if you know what I mean. Kind of like, say, a Young Justice, if you will, like a Young Justice League or something like that. Basically a Young Justice, like a Teen Titans or something. That's what they're supposed to meet up with. So, yeah. Take that for what it's worth, but apparently Sonic Thunderstorm is, according to this rumor, which again, like I said, a lot of people are taking with a grain of salt, is being developed for the Xbox One and the PS4. So again, take that for what it's worth. But anyway, that's all I have to say here on this December edition, December 2013 edition, the last edition of the monthly opinions for 2013. The last edition of the monthly opinions for 2013. And that's all I'm going to say. Let me know what you guys think about it think about what I said below. Comment if you like. And as I will say in the description, I'm going to say here at the end, thank you for taking the time to listen to this video, this audio video. I know it was long. I apologize for that. But when you have a lot to say, you have a lot to say. Hey, if you don't believe me, listen to some of the podcasts out there, okay? All right? Listen to some of those podcasts out there. You think sometimes people talk way too long? Hey. There's your answer. But anyway, take your time. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. And I will talk to you all later. God bless. Take care. Comments are welcome.